Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good day to everyone. Thank you for watching this video. As mentioned in previous class, so in this lecture, we will be doing asynchronous class, whereby I pre-recorded this video and uploaded in e-learnings. So with the hope that you will watch this recording before next class, which is after our mid-semester break. Okay, so here this lecture is divided into two because the pace of our lecture is different between section 1 and section 2. But still, I uploaded both part of the lecture in both classes, in both e-learnings. So you may watch it in your e-learnings. Okay, in the first part, I'm going to explain about how can we write a good job description. So remember, in previous class, we have discussed on the importance of job analysis, why we need to conduct the job analysis. Job analysis is the process. Job description is the outcome. It's the outcome of the job analysis. So what we're going to write in job description. So in a brief what we call introduction to job descriptions. So job description should be detailed. Job description must describe a job in enough details that decision about activities such as selection, training, performance appraisals, and professional development can be based upon information provided or written on the job descriptions. So job description can and should be updated on regular basis. It will not be ideal to have a 10-year job description, okay? But there is no specific time limits, like I mentioned in the class. There is no specific time limit, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. But the main, what we call the main, not the main symptom, the main signs or the main motivation or the main factor when should we update the job description is when there are changes. Okay, there are changes to the jobs, there are changes to the market, there are changes to the situation and environments. Then job description requires a review. So in a nutshell, there are 8 sections for a good job description. Okay, for a good job description should contain 8 information sections. The first one is job title, so we have discussed in the class. The second one, brief summary right below the job title. And then work activities, one of the most important part and taken the most part in the job description. Okay, explain all activities, all duties, all tasks need to be carried out by the job incumbent. And next is tools and equipment use, and then work context and environment that we work in, and then performance standards, and then compensation information, and lastly personal requirement, or what we call as competencies. Okay, for the job titles, so this is just a brief revision on what we have learned in class, okay, because we already explained this in class. For the job title, it's important to have a very a representative job title that can capture the nature of the works. Why? Because job title describe the nature of the jobs, its power and status levels, and the competencies needed to perform the jobs. Like we've discussed before, there are job titles which are misleading. Okay, remember the example that we discussed about GRO, Guest Relation Officer, while in fact the nature of the work is totally different. Okay, job title aids in employee selection and recruitment. Okay, it helps to inform the potential new employees, okay, or applicants will be able to determine whether their skills and experience match those required for the job. Okay, job title also provide workers with some forms of identity. Okay, they give us some sort of a status, okay, perceive that we are in a better situation than others. Okay, the one that we discussed about the difference between teachers and lecturers. Well, in fact, teachers in the long run or the short run even makes more financial gain as compared to teachers who do not acquire or do not being promoted to associate professor or professors, but people still perceive that being a lecturer is a higher status as compared to being a teacher. Job titles can also affect perceptions of the status and worth of a jobs. Jobs with higher status with higher status titles were evaluated as being worth more money than job with lower status title. Okay, in the second part is the brief summary. Okay, the brief summary of the jobs. So in this section, it's very brief, 4 to 5 statements in one paragraph. Describe the nature and purpose of the job. This summary can be used in the help wanted advertisement or looking for workers. Okay, what we call the advertisement for job vacancy. So internal job posting as well as company brochures. And that is the second part, the brief summary. And the third part, the biggest part, the one of the most important part beside the competencies is the work activities. Even though it's only briefly explained here, but work activities usually categorized into several groups or several categories. Okay, the example that given in your textbook on the clerk or the operator, there are many categories of work activities that need to be carried out by the incumbents. Work activities section, they list the tasks and activities in which the worker is involved. These tasks and activities should be organized into meaningful categories to make the job description easy to read and easy to understand. Okay, to make yourself better understand about this, you should also refer to the textbook where they give the bookkeeper example of the job description. Okay, so next is the section on tools and equipment use. This section should be included. So this section should list all of the tools, all of the equipment used to perform the work activities in the previous section. If you are working in teacher, do you need a computer and a laptop? So if you need it, okay, the company should provide it, and this should be included in the job description. If you need certain tools, if you are welder, do you need the welding machines, okay, and then the what we call the safety equipment, all of this should be explained in the job description. Information in this section is used primarily for employee selection and for employee training and development. There is an applicant can be asked if she or he can operate an adding machines, a computer, or any specific softwares and any tools that are required to perform the jobs. So it's very important when you want to hire new employees. So next, besides the tools and equipment that needed or used in the jobs, we also explain in job description the context of the jobs. This section describes the environment in which the employee works and mentions about stress levels, work schedules, physical demands, levels of responsibility, temperature, number of co-workers, degree of danger, and any other relevant information. Okay, based on my previous experience doing job description and evaluating the available job description, like I mentioned, I can rarely find one particular job description in Malaysian context, in the context that I have conducted job analysis, that are comprehensive and contain all information. And in fact, in the job context, I rarely find they include job context in the job description. Second, there is no mention about the work stress. I think nowadays we're supposed to pay more attention to that, especially after the post-pandemic, okay, this endemic era, whereby people started to realize more about the importance of mental health, okay, the importance of well-being, the stress, the depression, okay, the burnout that people are experiencing. So starting, I think if you are working on it later on, so if you have to conduct job analysis or you are in charge on that, so you need to stress or you need to highlight, okay, the importance of putting the source of stress in the job context, okay, in the job description. So this information, the job context, is important in providing the new applicants, okay, the potential employees with disabilities with information they can use to determine their ability to perform a job under a particular set of circumstances. Okay, to be fair to them, say for example your company requires a certain physical ability, then you need to inform them. Otherwise, people might think that everybody, regardless of their physical condition, can apply for the job. Okay, so next, beside the job context, one thing that always missing in the job description is the work performance. Okay, how the employee will be evaluated in terms of their productivity, in terms of their performance. Okay, what are the criteria that the organization are looking at? What are the criteria which they need to do but are not considered under their work performance? Okay, in this section, it contains a relatively brief description of how an employee performance is evaluated and what work standards are expected of the employee. So in my experience, in the work performance, they don't mention it in the job description, but they put it in our contract. Okay, before we agree to work here, they put it in the contract. So say for example, as a lecturer, if you want to be confirmed, okay, because when you want to join government office, okay, as public servant in Malaysia, when you are accepted, okay, when you are successful in your application process, you will be given 1 to 3 years probation period. Okay, during this probation periods, if you perform well, then you will be confirmed to the positions. So kita panggil as sah jawatan. So in this sense, so they put there within, if you want to be confirmed within 3 years, your yearly performance appraisal, or your performance for yearly evaluation should be you should get at least 95%. Okay, that is clearly stated. Or they put that if you want to be confirmed within the 3 years, your average performance appraisal for the 3 years should be more than 85. Okay, if you receive less than 80% evaluation, okay, 79, 78, 60, then you are not entitled for yearly salary increment. Okay, so they put it clearly in your contract. And then if you get below than 60%, so you will be subjected to exit policy. Exit policy is basically the procedures, the process that you will go through, and if you are not improved, you will be terminated from the company. Okay, so that is no work performance. Next is compensation information. Okay, in this section, it contains information on the salary grades. Okay, like we discussed before. So in government agency, they have a very standardized salary grade whereby all government office, and in fact all government agency, follow those guidelines which called as JPA guideline. Okay, perkeliling JPA, whereby it contains different grades. Okay, if you are degree holder, okay, you graduated from your psychology bachelor, and then you apply for pegawai psychology or diplomatic officer PTD or any administrative officer, so you are entitled for grade N41. Okay, the degree holder. So in N41 is your salary grades. So whether and this section also contains informations whether the position is exempt and the compensable factors used to determine salary. So what are the other factors that it requires that? Because say for example in Malaysia, so people who are from Peninsula, Sabah dan Sarawak, so they have special allowance. Okay, they have special allowance. We call it as allowance persekutuan. Okay, so if people from Sabah and Sarawak work in Peninsula, so they receive extra allowance, okay, 700 to 900 ringgit, okay, depending on the positions. And it goes the same thing to people who are from Peninsula and working in Sabah and Sarawak in Borneo. They also receive allowance for Sabah, Sarawak, Borneo, the same amount, 700 to 800 ringgit per month, okay, depending on the grades. Okay, in compensation information in this section as well, the employee's actual salary or salary range should not be listed on job description. Okay, should not be listed. So this is basically to avoid people who are chasing the money instead of the position and responsibility. But here the current practice is people put a range, a very big range. Okay, if you remember the example of the principal consultant of the human capital, if I'm not mistaken, the consultant that they offered me, so the salary is from 10 to 15,000 ringgit monthly. Okay, so that is the range. Okay, the range of the salary that you might, because in Malaysia, even though we have a very structured, standardized salary scheme for government office and for government agencies, but we don't have a very specific one for the industry. Okay, so they have freedoms on what types of salary scheme that they want to follow, they want to adopt, depending on their business plan and their business strategy. So sometimes to attract more applicants, they do put on the salary range in their job advertisement, but not necessarily in their job description. Okay, in the last part of job description is the job competencies, or we call it as KESAUS. K for knowledge, S for skill, A for abilities, O for other characteristic. Okay, or some books or some job description, we call it as the job specification. So if you come across job specification, or you come across competencies, or you come across KESAUS, they basically referring to the same thing. Though personally I would prefer KESAUS, KSAO. Okay. In this section, in this job competencies, okay, they listed, okay, the knowledge, the skill, abilities, and other characteristics that are necessary, okay, necessary for the incumbent, for the current and for the new incumbent to have, so that they will be successful in performing their job. Okay, competencies are determined by deciding what types of KESAUS are needed to perform the tasks identified in the job analysis. Later in the other section, we will discuss on how can we identify and determines the importance of every job competencies according to the job, the tasks and activities that we need to perform. So there are basically two categories in your text. However, in my previous experience, I categorize for the after hire, I categorize it into a couple of categories. Okay, so there are two, basically in general there are two different requirements for the job competencies of KESAUS. One is whatever are required upon hire. Okay, when we want to hire you, okay, as an executive, okay, as an analyst, as HR personnel, as organizational scientists, you need to have those requirements. Okay, you need to have those knowledge, skill, and abilities. Otherwise, you are not qualified to be hired. Okay, so this is the competencies that are needed upon hire. Okay, mainly to give information for selection process. Okay, for our recruitment officer or for yourself when you are evaluating or you are assessing new application for new employees. And then the next category is after hire. Okay, after hire, after 4 months working in the job, after 6 months, after 1 year, after 4 years, what are the expected knowledge, skills, abilities that you develop while learning on the jobs? Okay, this is basically for your personal development as well as for training and development. Okay, so your human resource department can look at, okay, this is the training that needed for us to develop our workers, and you yourself can see, okay, so if I want to be successful, I need to develop these other new skills, I need to know this new knowledge, okay, I need to develop a new abilities. Okay, so those are basically the 8 section in a good job description. Okay, good job description. Next, we are going to discuss on how to prepare to do the job analysis. Okay, similar to research in the context of industrial and organizational psychology that we discussed in the first topic, whereby we have a couple of considerations to make before we embark into doing research. Same things in job analysis. So before we embark into doing the job analysis, before we start things to do the process of job analysis, we need to consider many factors. Okay, in fact, we need to consider 10 factors. Okay, for us to prepare for the job analysis, first and foremost, we must decide who will conduct the job analysis itself. Okay, sometimes you might be asking, of course it does. It's not necessarily so. Okay, why? Because we don't have enough trainings. Okay, at the undergraduate levels, you know about the techniques, you know about the importance, you know about all the considerations, but you are not yet having ample exposure and training on doing the job analysis. Sometimes we will not be able to identify that the interviewee are not giving us the right information. So besides this class, you also requires a further trainings on how to conduct a job analysis properly. So there are at least 4 groups of people who can perform the job analysis. First and foremost, trained HR staff. Okay, not all human resource personnel. Maybe some of you or most of you, after graduation, you will be working as a human resource executive, human resource manager, okay, or human resource personnel, or human resource director. So you might be expert in human resource, all of the activities, all the requirement, but you also must be trained in job analysis. Otherwise, you should find someone who are more competent to do that. Or we can also ask supervisors. Okay, supervisors of the job that we want to do the job analysis. Say for example, you want to do job description for assistant director. Okay, we can do job analysis for the supervisors. Okay, the people who are above the positions that we are interested to do the job analysis. But of course, taking perspective of supervisors only is not adequate. Okay, it could be biased towards the job that the supervisors think the incumbent supposed to do. I do not give a comprehensive views without the views of the incumbents. Hence, the next person who can conduct or perform job analysis is the incumbent themselves. Okay, after giving a proper training, after giving a proper instruction, direction and guidance, they can also perform the job description. But in my experience, it does not give a comprehensive view, a comprehensive information about job description, job activities and job competencies. Okay, in my experience, one of my former classmates during my masters contacted me when I was doing my PhD. Actually, she contacted my supervisors, and then my supervisors asked her to consult me. So she came and she presented whatever she have, and I look at them. They can only give a certain perspective, okay, which is from their own perspective, what they have been doing all of this time. Okay, when I look at that and I realize that it's basically there are many things that they have described, they have listed as their job activities, tasks and responsibilities. Most of it are out of the context of their jobs. Okay, it might not be their own problem because of, some people ask them to do that. But another thing is they themselves don't realize what is their own responsibilities, and most of the times these incumbents, okay, this based on that experience, they are not able to differentiate between responsibilities, between tasks and duties. We might only have 4 responsibilities. Okay, in my case I have 4 responsibilities, but there are many activities behind them. There are many tasks and duties that need to be performed to fulfill one responsibility. Okay, people, incumbent do not know what is their responsibilities unless being explained by the supervisors, by the leaders of the organization, by the owners of the company. Okay, so another option is basically to hire outside consultant who are expert in doing job analysis and work profiling. Okay, however, when we involve external consultant, for example, outside consultants, it will incur more cost. So in my previous experience, I did a 360 job analysis. Okay, I interviews and get information from the incumbent. Okay, I get information from their peers. Okay, people who perform the same jobs, okay, but in other departments, in other units. I also interviews the supervisor, okay, the superior of the incumbent, the 3 levels of superiors, and then I also interviews their subordinates. So there are 360 everyone. Of course, they give comprehensive informations about the job that I'm doing, that I'm analyzing. However, it's a very time consuming. Okay, it's very time consuming. Okay, that is the first consideration. We have to decide who is going to conduct the job analysis, whether it's trained human resource staff, human resource personnel, whether it's supervisors, whether it's incumbents, whether we want to hire external consultant. Okay, the second consideration that we need to evaluate, okay, we need to think of is how often should job description be updated. Okay, I mentioned in the, just now. So sometimes we do not know. Sometimes we do not know when, okay, the next cycle of job analysis, okay, or most of the times in a company when they have job descriptions, they don't embark or they don't conduct a new job analysis after 10 years, after 20 years, okay, after 5 years. They no longer conduct job analysis. And in fact, in my belief, with what happened currently, okay, with the pandemic and post-pandemic now endemic, they are heavy, or they are very strong situational factors that impacted the job. Okay, not only one profession, many profession, teachers, lecturers, okay, not students do not work. Okay, operators, okay, they are flexible working hours. People are talking about new norms. People talking about VUCA. So there are so many changes in the market, okay, in the working profession. So there is no standards framework or standards guidelines when should we update, okay, how regular should we update job description, hence how regular should we conduct job analysis. So there is no standard guideline that saying that after 3 years or after 5 years, but the main criteria is when the job change. Okay, when the job change, then we need to conduct a new job analysis. So with the current situation, there is a strong justification, there are strong factors, so that we have to re-evaluate, we have to review what are the new activities that we need to perform, what are the obsolete activities that we no longer have to perform them. Okay, so and then there is a problems of not updating our job description, and another problem is job crafting. Okay, job crafting. There are people who, you know, they like to do some things which is not originally part of their activities, part of their responsibilities, or part of their tasks and duties, but they like to perform them. Okay, this is a real example. Okay, I've seen it in my eyes. I know the person as well, I know the organization. So this person is basically a technician. Okay, he is a technician, but he likes photography a lot. Okay, he likes photography a lot. So whenever opportunities, okay, because in universities we have a lot of programs. Okay, we have administrative program, we have program for students, we have program with staff, we have program with communities, and all of these programs requires evidence in the report. Okay, people take photos, people take pictures. Okay, for promotion, for financial report, for program report, for news, for publicity. So this guy keep on doing that. Okay, keep on doing that. So until the faculty realize that they need to buy a good quality camera. Okay, good quality camera. So this person volunteer and want to do it. Okay, originally he's a technician, he's an electrical technician. It's not his job. Okay, what he did is he always do that, and what happened whenever there is an event, whenever there is a program, so he will always go and take pictures. Okay, they, of course, there are good side of it. Okay, but people, when they do these sort of things, then when they do activities or tasks which are not originally their responsibilities, which are not originally part of their tasks and duties, so when they keep on doing that, and later people believe or people think or people perceive that that is his job, he is basically successfully crafting a new job for him. Okay, crafting a new task for him. Okay, so is that bad? Okay, so there is no basically template answer whether job crafting is good or it's not good, but there are always implication. Okay, there are always implication, even though it's not much happening in Malaysia. Okay, the reason why, like I mentioned before, company in Malaysia like to put that clause. Okay, they put one to teach, okay, to do research, and then to do administrative work, to do engagement, and then they put any task assigned by the universities, or any task assigned by the authority, or any task assigned by the organization. The reason why they want to put that, to cater for this out of context, okay, out of scope job or activity that need to be performed. Okay, why they put that? Because it's basically safeguarding their parts, like, as part of employers. Okay, the problem is, like I mentioned before, that clause should not exist. Okay, that clause should not exist. So if you want this person, for example, this person to keep on taking photos, to keep on taking pictures, so that activity should be added to his job description. So what is the problem of added? Just can edit. We can always update, we can always edit new tasks, and we can always remove a couple of tasks and activities from job description. But remember, with the new additions of tasks, the incumbents have the rights to ask for an increment in salary package, or an increment or any incentive that shows that he is basically have to do more that what he have been doing. Okay, that is one issue. Okay, that is one implication. Another implication is this more towards negative sides, whereby the person's crafting new things which he's not supposed to do, which he's not supposed to be performing, and then she only have a specific allocated time. Okay, everybody comes at 8 and everybody goes back at 5. Okay, if you spend 3 or 4 hours per day doing things which you supposed not to do it, other people have to do it, so you basically have neglecting, okay, your original works, your original tasks and duties. So that is the second implication, whereby crafting a new jobs might have hindered the real responsibilities that the person need to do. Okay, might have impacted the organizational productivity and organizational performance. Okay, that is the second considerations that we need to make before we embark or before we start the process of job analysis. Okay, the next consideration that we need to consider, that we need to evaluate before we conduct job analysis, while doing the preparation for the job analysis, we also need to consider which employees should participate in the process of job analysis. Okay, in a small medium enterprises with a few numbers or small numbers of workers, small numbers of employees, ideally we want to interview, we want all employees to get involved. But however, there are organizations, there are institutions, there are companies which have a lot of workers, a lot of employees. So in this case, we might consider to use a different approach so that we don't waste time, we don't waste resources to go and conduct job analysis to all incumbent of the same job. Okay, there are two approaches in this case, where a big company with many employees involved. So there are two approaches which we can use: committee-based or field-based approach. Okay, the main difference between committee-based and field-based is, for the committee-based, we call groups of SMEs or subject matter experts which could be in the forms of incumbent themselves, supervisors, maybe some other higher ranking officers and subordinates, to come and brainstorm what are the activities, what are the competencies, what are all the responsibilities, tasks and duties that need to be performed by the job incumbent, okay, by the workers for a specific position. Okay, that is for committee based. On the other hand, we can also use a field based. A field based means that the job analyst, either is a HR personnel, whether the manager, or we appoint external consultants, they can go and conduct the job analysis one by one at the workplace. That's why we call it as field based. So they can go and meet one incumbent, another incumbent, until they reach a situation whereby they feel that the information is enough. Okay, so the main aspects of doing committee-based or field-based approach is to know when to stop. Okay, to know when to stop, to know when we have enough data, when we have details or comprehensive data. So this is the stage whereby we call as data saturation. Okay, data saturation is concept in qualitative research whereby no new information is gathered after certain points of data collection. Okay, so if say for example we are using interviews, after we interview 3 or 4 people, when we reach the 5 persons, okay, the 5 incumbents, they no longer give us new information. Okay, it shows that there is the stage, or there is the number of respondents that we have reached data saturation. So for committee based and field based, when to stop is when we reach data saturation. Okay, so that is the third consideration, which is on which employee should participate in the job analysis procedures or in the job analysis process. Okay, next consideration is job competence. Okay, job competence. The concern for job competence is we as a job analyst, we as a manager, we as the HR personnel, we need to understand that in all of those employees, they are employees who are high performer, who work so well, who are always do the best their works, okay, who always achieve 100% of their KPIs, or 99%, 90%, 95% of their key performance indicators. We also need to realize that they are employees who are low performer. Low performer means that they usually are on average, okay, they don't really reach the expectation of the company. So the concern here is, who should we take for the job analysis? High performer or low performer? Okay, low performer. And when I joined UTM, okay, I get to know that there are occasions whereby they are overperform. Okay, overperform means that they go beyond than the allocation of the key performance evaluation. Okay, I thought it's impossible to do it, but most of the winners of Anugerah Pekerja Cemerlang, APC, okay, Anugerah Pekerja Cemerlang, they reach more than 100%. Okay, Dr. Nur Akmal, our director, previously when she won APC, Anugerah Pekerja Cemerlang, her KPI was 125 out of 100, go beyond than 100%. So beside low performer, high performer, we also have overperformers, okay, who perform beyond than what are required. So the issue here for job competence is, if we take only high performer or overperformer, it will not give justice to the job activities and competencies needed to perform the jobs, because these are the people who are at the top end, whereby not many people are able to do the same job as they have been doing. Okay, these high performers and overachievers. At the same time, if we only consider low performer, of course the company, okay, the organization, they don't want us to go and interviews and get data and get information from the low performers, okay, because it won't give them any any benefits or any advantage in terms of job description. In fact, they will feel that they overpaid these low performers. However, as a job analyst, we need to consider who we want to take. Okay, in this sense, representative means that the numbers of incumbents, okay, they must represent all sorts of employees in terms of their performance level. Okay, we could have a quarter of high performers, okay, a quarter of moderate performers, and a quarter of low performers. Okay, but in this sense, low performing doesn't mean that they perform so low which is they are unproductive. Okay, they are still productive, achieving the minimum levels. For example, in UTM, we could take as 60% or 80%, and then high performance people who almost are perfect. Okay, well, in fact, the problem in I do not know whether it's problem in Malaysia or the problem in higher education institutions. They put down their KPIs. However, their expectations are so high, which is beyond than the key performance criteria or key performance indicators. This is happening in quite a number of my friends, not in UTM, in my previous institution. Okay, in their contract, they only put 2 performance evaluation criteria, which is completing their PhDs and doing teaching activities. However, when they are being evaluated, they also being evaluated on how their commitment and efforts in the area of administration and students advising. So what in fact is not related to their jobs description or their performance evaluation criteria. So but the contextual influence, the environment there requires them to also do all sort of those things, even though they are not required to do it. Okay, the expectation is beyond than the performance criteria evaluation. Okay, sometimes it's quite difficult when we go and ask the supervisors or the top managers in that sense. I think we have heard that there are scenarios, I don't know whether it's true or not. Okay, there are scenarios whereby if you are working in certain company, I have my friends who are work as a PTD, pegawai takbir diplomatic or diplomatic officers, who said that he will not come or go back after 5 until his superior go back. Okay, if his superior go back at 6, then he can go back at 6. Okay, if his superior goes back at 9 p.m. at night, he has to go back after 9 p.m. Okay, nobody in his office have the courage to go back before the boss go back. Okay, so in that sense, it's not basically a healthy working culture, because we do not have any information on that regard in our job description. Okay, in our job description. So in that sense, you need to stay through what is your working duration, what is your working times. So for me, I don't have a specific working times. I don't really mind if people come in late, people go back early. Okay, in the case of being academic, because academic is being defined by the type of works. I believe that majority, if not all, majority of lecturers, when they go back, they take rest, they eat, they pray, they have to look back at the work. Okay, regardless whether it's research work or whether it's commenting on the draft, whether preparing for tomorrow's class, okay, or whether doing the assignment, preparing the assessments or marking, we always sacrifice our personal times for our work. So the times they stay or they work in the office is basically not important. What important is whether they can complete the work or not. Okay, coming back to the job competencies. Okay, so who is the one that we're going to interview? Okay, ideally it should be representative. Okay, if we have all these 3 types of workers, then make sure that our informant during the job analysis are representative. We have all representative from all types of performance. Okay, next, race. Okay, race, ethnicity. Okay, there are jobs that have many different races. Okay, in Malaysia, for example, we have the dominant of Malay, but we also have the Chinese. Okay, we also have Indian. We also have Bumi Putra. Okay, if the jobs have different range of races, then we also need to consider we have representative from all races. Okay, it's not the issues of racisms or the issues of fairness, of justice, but they are also the impacts of cultural influence. In your textbook, they will mention that. They will mention in your textbooks if they have whites American, blacks American, Latinos and Hispanic and Asian. Asian are the one who works the hardest, okay, the most diligent workers, the hardest workers in the company, and they usually receive better salary package. That is in your textbook. Okay, in Malaysia we have this perception. Okay, I do not know about the Indian. You have this perception. If you have a Malay worker and Chinese worker, Chinese work harder than the Malays. Okay, sorry guys, I also Malays, but we have to admit that there are the perception. We have those perception. So whether it's true or not, we do not know, but we do not want to focus only one race if they have different work ethic as compared to others. So we want to have a representative. If you have Chinese, Malay and Indian in your company, then make sure that you get representative from all three races and including Bumi Putras to give information when you are doing the job analysis. So that is the fifth considerations. The sixth consideration is gender. Same to races. Okay, there are gender differences in working. Okay, in terms of timings, female workers, they are more limited. Okay, not in terms of their abilities, but they are the one in a culture whereby wife is the one who have to look after their children. Wife is the one who have to look after their all of the things in the families, education of the children. Then you have to expect that wife or female workers could not spend more time as compared to male workers. Okay, then if you get information from female only, it will not be representative. At the same time, if you get information from the male workers only, it will not be representative. Then you should be balanced and representative. What happened in Malaysia? Okay, what happened in Malaysia is the high performing work. Nowadays we always heard about gender equality, gender fairness, and then these are the movement of to look after the right of women. It's very good. Okay, it's very good. But in higher education industry, in higher education sector, look around. Okay, look in your class. How many male students you have? Okay, how many male students you have? In last semesters, for consumer psychology, this is for your senior. Okay, consumer psychology. Consumer psychology is an elective course. When you reach your third year, you can choose whether you want to register for clinical psychology or for the consumer psychology. So they will be 50% and 50%. So another 50% goes to clinical psychology, 50% goes to consumer psychology. So people who choose consumer psychology last semesters, out of I think 42 students, only one are male student. Only one was a male student. Okay. You cannot give that because they go to different universities. No, and in fact the male students are international. I think he is from Indonesia. Okay, that is a common scenario in Malaysia, regardless in any department. Okay, regardless. When I was doing my degrees, I've never have a male dominance class. In all classes that I've been, especially psychology subjects, male will not be more than 10. If you get 6 to 7 male students, that will be an advantage. Usually will be less than 5. And when I joined the department, okay, when I joined psychology department, okay, remember why I have to do this videos recording, because I have to attend training. In the trainings, I am the only male participant. There are 16 of us. so-called selected people to go for leadership training. I thought I go because I don't have leadership. Okay, so these people who being, I don't know, assigned or selected to attend this training, there are 16 of us. I am the only male participants. Okay, so the context here is not that we should get a representative from underprivileged like the female workers. We also need to look at the context of how many of them. Okay, if say for example in your company you have 100 employees for one position. Okay, 100 employees for one position. So and out of this 100, 90% are female. Okay, 90% are female. When you want to do job analysis, you want to interview 10 people, you don't have to go to take 5 male, 5 female, no needs. Okay, why? Because it's not representative in the context and environment of your works. What you can do is you take percentage. Okay, 90% out of 10 would be 9 people. 10% out of 10 can be only 1 person. So you can interview 1 person from male and then another person from female. That is one method. Another method is you can take say for you can consider on the data saturation. You interview 3 female workers, and then after the 4th one there are no new informations, then you can stop. Then interview 1 male workers. Okay, the information is a little bit different from the 3 females, and then you can continue to the 2nd male workers. Okay, until you reach data saturation when the male workers no longer give new information. It could be 2 or 3 male workers. So you can do like that as well. Next consideration. Okay, we have race, we have gender, educational levels. Okay, this is interesting. Educational levels. There are some jobs that are required specific educational levels. For example, you want to become a lecturer. Okay, Malaysia starting from 2011. Actually, the idea is coming from 2007. Okay, if you realize that nowadays we are this blueprint, okay, academic higher education blueprints. That is basically our national strategic plan to improve, okay, further our educational system. Okay, prior to that we have PSPTN, Plan Strategic Pendidikan Tinggi Negara. Okay, it started in 2007, but in 2011 the government have decided that they will no longer allow the universities to appoint lecturers without PhD. Okay, we have the scheme which is a DS45, except for a couple of courses such as dentistry, medics and architecture. They can still appoint DS45, which is lecturers on 45, because in medics, for example, if you have masters, you are the specialist, you are no longer a normal one. Okay, so you don't require you to have PhD. So universities can still appoint DS45 for lecturers in medicines. But for other general courses, social science for example, we no longer have that scheme, okay, which you can be appointed as a lecturer, or previously we call as tutor or assistant lecturer on DS45, even though you are very clever, you are very excellent. So what required is, it is required to have PhD to be appointed as lecturer. It is a requirement. Therefore, what happened is, all of the jobs, okay, requires the current lecturers and the new lecturers to have PhD. Okay, this is not applicable in this context, okay, for the educational levels. In this sense, we are talking about jobs which do not require us to have a specific degree. Okay, so have specific degree. I think some of you might have the same perception as me before. When towards completing my first degrees, okay, I don't really have interest to study. Okay, don't follow me. I only developed my interest in studying when I was in my 3rd year, 2nd semester. Very late. Okay, that's why if you look at my transcript, the earlier one not so good. But not too bad, because I still managed to achieve the minimum levels. And then after the 3rd year, I started to tell myself, now I want to study, and then I started to pay more attention, give more efforts. Okay, during during those times when I decided, when I go back to my mom, I told my mom, after my degree I want to do business. Okay, and then my mom told me, yes, you can do it, but at the same time you have to work full time. I said no, I want to focus 100% in my business. But my mom told me that no, you have to work, and then you have to and you can do the business. So even though I'm quite rebellious, okay, I'm a very stubborn guy. I always listen to my mom. She passed away in my first semester of doing PhD. So I come back. To universities, and I told my friends that I'm not going to proceed with our plan, because there are three of us. We've secured fundings, we've secured the place, the sites, and we've secured the proposal and the business plan. Everything are basically in the pipeline, but it's happened that all of our parents don't agree with our so-called plan. So two of my friends, one decided to join banking industry, another decided to join halal industry. If you have heard about halal industry, I do not know what to do. Okay, I do not know what to do. I know that with my personalities, it's very difficult for me to work with others, because I always have opinions, and I can always accept other people's opinion, but they have to really justify and convince me. Okay, otherwise they will have a hard times on answering my questions. So what happened was, I decided to pursue my study at the master levels. So at that times, I have this perception. Okay, I have these perceptions. People who hold a master degree will have a better chance, or a better chance in the market, okay, in the working market, as compared to people who have only a bachelor's degree. Same goes the same way. If people have a PhD degree, they will have a better chance as compared to people who only have masters and bachelor, and compared to people who have bachelors. Okay, that is my perception. Awak ada master, peluang lebih baik berbanding yang tak ada master. Actually, it's not. Except if you want to be academics, okay, you want to be lecturers or teachers or researchers or data analysts. Other profession beside these academic related professions, there is no difference between people who have bachelor's degrees and master degree. There is no difference. I do not know that. I know that when I was towards in the middle of my masters, and there is no difference. If you want to be administrative officer, okay, you have bachelor's degrees, and say for example we have two candidates, one with bachelor's degrees, another one with PhD. There is no difference when you want to join government as administrative officer. No difference. If you want to join any industries, there is no difference between master degree holder and PhD holder. I do not know that. Okay, so in this sense, okay, if you have a work profession, designer for example, there are people who only have diploma, but they are he or she are very good graphic designer. Okay, because you can self-taught. Okay, you can self-taught. Nowadays there are many short courses provided in the net. Okay, you can look at LinkedIn. Okay, there are many other sites, I don't remember the names, who provide these what we call micro credentials, where you can register. Sometimes it's free, sometimes you have to pay, and then you learn and you will receive certificates. Then when you are designer, for example, they don't look at your degrees. What they look is your portfolio. Okay, they ask, okay, what is your previous design that you have done? So you show, okay, this is my design, this is my design, this is my design. So people look at your work experience in that sense, but your previous products. If you have a PhD degree in design, for example, but you don't have any product, or your product is not as good as the products produced by people with no degrees, okay, who self-taught, then people will not hire you. Okay, people will go to the track records and look at the portfolio. So in that sense, okay, if you have workers coming from different educational levels, then it also, the requirement is to be representative. Okay, to be representative, we do not want to be biased towards certain levels of education. Okay, when the job do not requires a specific educational requirement. Okay, next, personality. So this is interesting. Okay, this is interesting because this will give advantage to you. Okay, psychology student who learn about job analysis and also who have a very strong basics, okay, minoring in human resource. Because people who do not study psychology, they have difficulties to understand about personality. I have a big argument during trainings about this personality aspect. Okay, do not waste our time to listen to my story. If in the class, if you want to know, you can ask, but here I want to shorten the time for me to edit the video. Okay, what the mean of what we need to consider about personality? Okay, ideally, if we have, okay, some of you are currently taking personality psychology. Okay, there are many approaches. Okay, the most famous personality traits theory is the big five. Okay, you have openness, you have conscientiousness, you have agreeableness, you have extrovert introverts, and you have neuroticism or emotional stability. So say for example we take this perspective. Okay, there are 5 different personality traits. Okay, this big 5. So if in your, okay, in that position that you want to do the job analysis, have all these 5 types of personality, then we need to consider all different types, and we have to bear in mind there are certain personality types that will give a more detail, or will give more tasks, or give more informations on the casaus. Okay, why? Research has found that, okay, it's not about neuroticism, it's not about conscientiousness or extrovert. Research has found that extrovert, okay, people with people who have high extroversion score and people who have high in agreeableness score. These are the 2 personality types that will inflate tasks and kesal. What inflate mean here? That okay, if you ask people who are conscientiousness, people who are neurotic, okay, neuroticism, not neurotic, sorry, who are high in neuroticisms, they will give a normal task, okay, number of tasks and duties that they need to perform, and they will give normal, reasonable numbers of kesals. But these 2 types of personality, high in extroversion and high in agreeableness, they will give more tasks. They will give more tasks. In fact, sometimes it's not necessary. Okay, more tasks and more kesals. Those are people who have high in extroversion and agreeableness. So bear in mind, you also need to consider personality when you want to conduct job analysis. Okay, the second last point, the viewpoint, okay, the mindset, the perspective, the philosophy of the informant. Okay, if you have many mindsets, if you have many employees who have different perspective, different philosophies, you need to consider all of the styles. Okay, all of the styles. Why? Say for example, people say that I am perfectionist. I am not perfectionist. Okay, I always stress that I am not perfectionist. So say for example, you have people who are perfectionists, you have people who are realists, you have people who are practical, you have people who are reserved. Okay, 4 types of viewpoint. So you need to consider all types. Okay, why? If you take perfectionists, they will give a lot of works, okay, a lot of activities to be done. Okay, that's why you need to consider. If you take people who reserve, okay, they are not proactive, they are waiting, okay, they wait for orders and instruction, then their work activities will be not up to the expectation of that job. So that's why you need to consider all different viewpoints. And lastly, types of information. When we talk about type of information, okay, what you need to consider before we do the analysis, what are the level of specificity, the specifics. Okay, what is the level of details that we wanted from our informants? Okay, whether it's too details, okay, what color of pen that you use to identify the mistakes in the ledger of account, for example. Okay, so for example, you need to use you need to use pen with red pen, for example. Do you want to that levels of details, or you want to be a general? Okay, like identifying hiccups or mistake in the account ledger. Okay, need to highlight the problems, okay, the mistake in the ledger. Okay, so what are levels of details that we want? So here usually people will take that not too details but not too general, that we still do not have an idea on how to perform the works. Okay, and sometimes it depends on the type of works that we are doing. Okay, depends on the type of works that we are doing. Why? Because there are works that requires a very specific details. Okay, for example given in your textbook, for example, if you are someone who managing and arranging QC, the quality control, they put there, if you want to move numbers of windows, okay, the windscreen of cars, for example, you can only pick at one time six numbers of windows at one time, because if you go more than 6, it will be very dangerous to the products and to the workers. It's very specific. Okay, but some others are very general. You need to conduct class. How to conduct is up to you, for example. So there are different levels of specificity. Okay, here when we talk about level of specificity, we are talking about types of information. Okay, whether it's a formal requirements that you need to conduct the work, or it's an informal requirements. Okay, our focus is we need to consider all of the formal requirements. Okay, formal requirements need to be asked, need to be clear out, need to be explained. Okay, so that we can include that in our job description. Informal requirements, sometimes it's necessary, but sometimes it's not necessary. So you need to consider whether we want to take informal requirement or not. But most of the times, in Malaysia, for example, you need this, what we call interpersonal intelligence or social intelligence, in a way that the communication with others is a requirement. I do not know why the way your manners, okay, the way you conduct yourself, the way you greet people are being evaluated.